Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. I was sitting in the sunlit kitchen of a vintage-style mansion in Charleston, where my sister-in-law Miranda was hosting the family's monthly brunch. The weather was beautiful, the table meticulously set with ivory linens and sparkling crystal glasses catching the morning light. Everything seemed perfect. If only I weren't staring at the coffee cup in front of me, wondering whether or not to bring it to my lips. "I made it myself, Everly," my husband Kyle said with a smile as he placed the cup in front of me. His voice was casual, but his eyes sent a chill down my spine. "Tried a new recipe just for you?" The smell hit me instantly. Something was off. Not just wrong, strangely metallic and warm, like it didn't belong to any coffee I'd ever known. A cold shiver ran down my back. Miranda sat across from me, sipping her espresso without taking her eyes off me. Her expression was unnervingly calm, as if she were waiting for something or confirming that something was about to happen. I forced a smile. "Kyle, you know I prefer iced coffee, right?" I tried to keep my tone light, though my hand trembled slightly on the cup. "You're breaking tradition today," he shrugged. "Thought I'd shake things up. You should try it. Miranda and I already did. It's really good." "Is that so?" I turned to Miranda, searching her face for any sign beyond that robotic smile. She nodded slightly and set her cup down, not taking another sip. I'd gotten used to this brand of friendliness. In our 3 years of marriage, I'd been hospitalized 3 times after eating at Miranda's house. Mysterious allergic reactions, food poisoning, or severe stomach cramps. Nothing ever conclusive. Kyle always had an excuse: strange food, sensitive stomach, weather changes. Miranda always appeared concerned, asked how I was, sent flowers to the hospital, but never visited. I no longer believed in coincidences, not after nearly missing a major meeting because of a detox tea she'd made for me. "Though what were you and Miranda doing at her place so late last night?" I asked casually, still staring at the coffee. Kyle blinked slightly, startled. We were discussing your anniversary gift. Wanted to surprise you." "Surprise indeed," I muttered, setting the cup aside as I pretended to search for my phone in my purse. I glanced at the table. 3 cups of coffee, 1 for me, 1 for Kyle, 1 for Miranda. Mine was the only one untouched, and I was sure they both knew that. Miranda propped her chin on her hand, her smile barely noticeable. "Everly, you worry me. You've looked so tired lately. Everything all right?" "Not really," I replied, my gaze dropping to the polished tile floor. "Maybe I just haven't had my coffee yet." I lifted the cup to my lips, didn't drink, just minded. A sip while keeping my eyes on both of them. They exchanged a brief glance, not long, but long enough to tighten the knot in my chest. Something was happening. And if I wasn't careful, this cup might be the reason I never left that table. Phone in hand, like I'd just gotten an urgent message. "Excuse me, I think my sister just texted me. Mind if I use your study for a second, Miranda?" "Go ahead," she said, her eyes following me like a hawk. I walked past the table toward the hallway leading to the study. As I passed Miranda's chair, I deliberately stumbled a little. "Oh, I am so sorry," I exclaimed, bumping the table just enough to jostle the cups. While leaning down to fix the linen and realign the cups, I switched mine with hers in one swift, subtle motion. No one would notice unless they were looking for it. Miranda glanced at me, her brows twitching, but said, "Nothing." I rushed into the study, heart pounding, hands shaking from the adrenaline. I left the door slightly ajar, just enough to watch the table from a distance. Kyle was on his phone. Miranda picked up the coffee, my original cup, and brought it to her lips. I held my breath. 1 sip, then another. 10 seconds passed. Nothing. I started to doubt myself. Was I just being paranoid? Then Miranda placed a hand on the table, her face tightening. Her other hand gripped the chair. Kyle looked up at that exact moment and saw his sister's pale face. He jumped to his feet. "Miranda, my throat, it's burning," she stammered, her hand trembling. "Kyle, there's something in that cup." I stepped out of the study, my phone already, recording since the moment I entered. "Not feeling well, Miranda?" I asked, my voice calm, eyes locked on Kyle. "Everly!" Miranda's voice cracked, eyes darting between me and Kyle. "You said it would only make her tired, not—" "Wait!" I cut in, stepping closer. "Only tired? What exactly did you tell her, Kyle?" He stared at me, blood draining from his face. This wasn't supposed to happen. That wasn't her cup." The kitchen went dead silent. I pulled my phone from my coat pocket and held it up. I recorded everything, including what she just said about you promising it would only make me tired. Miranda clutched her stomach, gasping. "Call an ambulance!" Kyle fumbled for his phone. "I'm calling! I didn't know she drank the wrong one." I stepped back and dialed 911. "I need an ambulance at 145 Elmhurst Drive. Someone is having a severe reaction after drinking coffee. She's shaking, nauseous. Her hands are seizing." I gave them the address, eyes still fixed on the two of them. Miranda collapsed on the floor, Kyle kneeling beside her, face as pale as paper. "Everly, you switched the cups," Miranda whispered. "You knew." I crouched, keeping a safe distance, locking eyes with her. "After 3 ER visits in 6 months, you think I wouldn't figure it out? The birthday breakfast, that weird-tasting egg, the tea before my big presentation, and now this coffee." The door burst open as paramedics rushed in. I stepped back to let them through. "Kyle, you planned this with your sister?" I asked, not needing an answer because of the contract I landed. He stayed silent, sweat beading on his forehead as Miranda moaned through the spasms. "I'll go to the hospital with her," I said to the medics. "She's my sister-in-law." One nodded, motioning for me to follow. Kyle tried to grab my arm. "You don't understand. This isn't what it looks like." I pulled away, my voice like ice. "Really? Then how did you know it wasn't Miranda's cup before she said anything?" I walked out the door, my chest heavy but no longer afraid. As the morning light streamed through the windows, the truth was coming to light. And this time, they wouldn't get away with it. I sat in the ER waiting room at St. Vincent Hospital, eyes locked, on the partially closed door across from me. Miranda was being treated inside. Kyle had disappeared the moment the paramedics wheeled her away. No one saw him leave. No explanation, no message. I pressed my palm against my thigh to keep from shaking. In my purse, the phone was still recording. The entire conversation at the brunch table, every word Miranda said, every reaction from Kyle, and most importantly, his whispered voice. That wasn't her. The door swung open. A female doctor in a white coat stepped in, her expression serious. "Miss Everly Carson?" they asked. "Yes, I'm the patient's sister-in-law. She's out of danger but still weak. We detected a small amount of a foreign substance in her blood, something typically used in clinical research, not commercially available." "You mean it can't be bought at a store or pharmacy?" "Exactly. And more importantly, with the amount Miranda consumed, if you had been the one to drink that coffee, the consequences could have been far more severe." I gripped my bag tighter, part fear, part fury. "I want to report this to the police right now?" "We've already called," the doctor said gently. "An officer is on their way. In the meantime, Miranda has asked to speak with you." I nodded and walked down the quiet hallway toward the hospital room. Miranda lay there, pale, hooked up to an IV, her eyes half open, staring at the ceiling. When she saw me, she frowned and tried to sit up but didn't have the strength. "I thought you wouldn't come," she whispered. "Not come? After you nearly killed me for the 4th time in 6 months? I figured I should at least look you in the eye one last time," I replied, my voice cold. Miranda pressed her lips together, her breath shallow. It wasn't to kill, just to make you rest for a while. Rest? I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You mean be conveniently absent so you could present the Brentwood proposal in my place? Miranda closed her eyes as if bracing herself against both the pain and the truth being spoken aloud. Kyle said if you missed the meeting, the board would hand the project over to him and me. You were behind the times. I ended up in the hospital, I asked, even though deep down I already knew. I made the tea when you had that allergy episode. Just enough to make you dizzy. Kyle brought the muffins on your birthday. He added a little flavoring. That's what he called it. I sat down in the chair beside her bed, eyes unblinking. Why? I never competed with anyone. I worked hard. I came in early, stayed late. I even gave you the spotlight last year on the Harper project. Miranda sighed, eyes still closed. Because you made everything look easy. Clients loved you. You had the ideas they wanted, and me? I worked for over a decade and no one noticed. Then you showed up and all the spotlight went to you. I sat in silence. There was no excuse for what. They did. But under the hospital's soft yellow light, I saw nothing but a woman hollowed out by envy that had eaten through all reason. And Kyle? I asked. He's my husband. The one who swore to protect me. Miranda squinted, lips twitching into a weak smirk. Kyle never stood behind anyone. Once you outpaced him, everything changed. The coastline deal, the lakeshore contract, they all went to you. The door opened. A female officer entered, followed by a nurse. Miranda Stone, the officer said. We need you to cooperate in an investigation regarding the suspected attempt to harm another individual. Miranda nodded weakly. She didn't resist. As they prepared to escort her out, she turned to me. Everly, don't trust anyone, not even the ones who sleep beside you every night. I stood still, my heart heavy. That line haunted me more than the confession. I left the hospital that afternoon under a light drizzle. Raindrops tapped against the roof of my car as I sat in the parking lot, hands clenched on the wheel. Miranda's last words echoed in my head. Don't trust anyone, not even the ones who sleep beside you. I knew this battle was far from over. Before leaving, I had sent the audio recording from the brunch to my private attorney, Andrew Gallagher, a former partner from several intellectual property cases. He was not only brilliant but completely discreet. Less than 10 minutes later, he called back, voice calm and firm. Everly, this is the first piece of evidence we need. But I'll need more. Something to show this wasn't an isolated incident. I looked down at my phone, then reached for the backup phone, the one I kept hidden in my desk drawer. It held a full archive of voice memos and screenshots I'd quietly collected over the past 4 months. The first time I truly suspected something was wrong was back in February, after I collapsed in the conference room just hours before I was set to present a strategic plan to the Corellas board. Kyle had stepped in to replace me, and even though he simply repeated my slides, the report credited him as the lead presenter. That evening, I found a small, unlabeled white sugar packet tucked into the lunch Kyle had packed for me. I didn't say a word, but from that moment on, I started recording everything. I opened a folder labeled Obsidian, a code name I'd given it. Inside were 17 voice recordings, 24 screenshots of messages between Kyle and Miranda, and a detailed log of every incident. The time, the symptoms, who cooked, who handed me drinks, and what happened afterward. Every detail arranged like a covert operations report. I sent it all. Andrew, with a note, I'm ready to bring this to light. I won't let them get away with it. Within 30 minutes, Andrew called back. Everly, this is no longer just a family or workplace dispute. This is a systematic scheme to cause harm, sustained over months, with clear evidence of collusion and intent. I'm forwarding it to an investigator, but you need to stay calm and absolutely avoid confronting Kyle directly. I nodded silently, then drove home. The house Kyle and I once shared sat on Oak Ridge Street, lined with deep red maple trees. I didn't go in right away. Instead, I played a voice memo from 3 weeks ago when Kyle called Miranda from our living room, thinking I was asleep. "Not strong enough," Kyle had said. "Last time she just got dizzy and still showed up to the meeting like nothing happened. You sure it'll work this time?" Miranda's voice, cold and matter-of-fact, answered, "As long as she misses the argon. And co-product launch, the client will come to us. They want consistency, not someone who's constantly hospitalized." I stopped the playback, my chest going cold. When I opened the front door, Kyle was lounging on the sofa with a glass of wine, as if nothing had happened. "You're back. How's Miranda?" I didn't answer. I walked straight to the office and locked the door behind me. I needed a safe place to prepare. On my computer, I opened our most recent contract with Henderson Group, a deal worth over $8 million. My name was listed as the direct representative, and I knew Kyle had tried to take the lead for the executive pitch and been denied. Anger and betrayal swirled in my chest, but I couldn't let emotion cloud my next steps. I turned on the webcam and began recording a video statement. My face was clear, my eyes steady, and my voice resolute. "My name is Everly Carson. I have been poisoned multiple times over the past 6 months by my husband, Kyle Carson, and my sister-in-law, Miranda Stone. Their intent was to weaken my ability to work, cause me to miss important meetings, and divert business opportunities to themselves." I saved the file and named it Final Truth Mouth 4. When I stepped out of the room, Kyle was watching me closely. "You okay?" he asked. I smiled. "Fine, but I think we need to talk with a lawyer." Kyle's face tightened for a split second. I could see him calculating an exit strategy. But this time, I was already one step ahead, and I wasn't stopping until the truth came to light. The next morning, I returned to St. Vincent Hospital with everything my lawyer had requested: copies of the recordings, a detailed log file, and the video statement I had recorded the night before. The police had already been notified and arrived on time. Officer Maria Ellison, along with 2 colleagues and the attending ER doctor, met me in the administrative office. "I've been briefed," Maria began, her voice firm, "but we'll need to review all documentation and, if possible, confirm the hospital records of your recent admissions. I've prepared everything," I said, handing her a USB drive. "And here's a letter from Dr. Bruner. He treated me during my last admission in June." They opened a laptop and plugged in the headset. As the brunch recording played, I watched Maria's expression shift from skeptical to stunned to icy. "That wasn't her cup," Maria repeated Kyle's line from the recording. "That's the turning point." I nodded. "And there's more." In other recordings, Kyle and Miranda discussed dosages, symptoms, and ideal timing for me to be out. Maria glanced at the doctor. "We'll need Miranda's blood test results as soon as possible. And, if available, compare them to Everly's from her past ER visits." The doctor nodded. "We're working on it, but there's one critical detail. Miranda's preliminary results show traces of a compound used in behavioral neurotesting. It's not approved outside of lab trials." Maria turned to me. "Do you know where that might have come from?" "I'm not sure," I replied. "But Kyle used to be a research assistant at Brown University during his grad program. One of his former classmates now works at a pharmaceutical company called Kaner Pharm. They specialize in neurological test compounds." She noted it down, then radioed in for a team to investigate Kyle's workplace, Ashcraft and Bennett, where he worked as a legal advisor on commercial contracts. Less than an hour later, the report came in. 4 small unmarked vials were found in Kyle's desk drawer at the firm, each with a handwritten note detailing observed symptoms, onset timing, and a related project name. One note read, "Everly Henderson deal must last at least 3 days." I felt numb hearing that. The truth was now undeniable. This wasn't just a ploy to sabotage me at work. It was a methodical, calculated operation carried out with chilling precision. "We're expanding the investigation to Caner Farm," Maria said. "If the compounds trace back there, more names will be involved. But for now, Kyle Carson is being summoned." As we discussed next steps, a hospital staffer entered and informed us that Miranda was awake and had asked to speak with me privately. I followed them to her room. Miranda looked completely different from the day before. Her face was less tense. Her eyes no longer held that smug glint, just exhaustion and something like relief. "I didn't think you'd come," she rasped. "I came to hear your final confession," I said, standing a few feet from her bed. "No need to confess more. I've said enough," Miranda whispered. "But I want you to know I didn't think it would go this far. Kyle, he pushed me past the line. I just wanted my career back, not to destroy you." I stayed silent. It wasn't an apology, and it wasn't remorse, just the self-pity of someone who knew she had lost. "I'll tell the police everything," Miranda added. "I have a copy of an email Kyle sent to someone named Jonathan Matthews at Caner Farm. He asked for a compound that slows cognition without leaving a trace. It's on my laptop." I left the room without responding. I didn't need a confession. I needed justice, and justice had finally begun to turn. The trial began on a cold autumn morning at the Charleston County Courthouse. Outside, maple trees were just starting to change colors. Inside, the tension was so thick that even the faintest cough echoed sharply. Kyle Carson and Miranda Stone sat at the defense table, their faces cold, stripped of the confidence they once wore at their lavish family gatherings. I sat in the front row on the plaintiff's side next to Attorney Gallagher. Behind me were my mother, a few close colleagues, and a representative from Henderson Group, the client we nearly lost to Kyle's scheme. The prosecutor opened with a clear statement. "This case isn't just about betrayal within a marriage. It's about a calculated campaign to destroy a woman's health, reputation, and career, all because she was more successful." The evidence was presented one piece at a time: the brunch recording, text messages between Kyle and Miranda discussing dosage and timing, and a handwritten note from Kyle that read, "Double the dose if needed. Ensure she's absent on the 17th. The courtroom fell silent as the prosecution played the video testimony I'd recorded at home, where I looked straight into the camera and spoke about the pain, the hospital visits, and the crushing realization that it was my own husband who handed me every morning drink. I didn't look at Kyle as the video ended. I had long stopped seeking any emotion from him. On the second day, Dr. Broner was called as an expert witness. He presented my blood test results from 3 separate hospitalizations, each one showing traces of the same rare chemical compound with gradually increasing concentration. This was not accidental poisoning. The doctor stated someone was monitoring the patient's reactions and adjusting the dosage over time. That indicates control and intent. On the third day, a representative from Caner Farm, the pharmaceutical company Kyle had ties to, confirmed that an employee named Jonathan Matthews had been suspended and the chemicals in question were linked to emails from Kyle Carson. "We are shocked and deeply regretful," the representative said. "These compounds were never authorized to leave controlled environments." When the defense attorneys stood, they tried to shift the narrative by claiming Miranda was manipulated and that Kyle only wanted to help his wife rest from being overworked. The courtroom erupted when the prosecutor responded, "Help her rest by lacing her food with test compounds? By emailing a friend asking for a dose strong enough to keep her out of work for 3 days? Your Honor, this is not concern. This is conspiracy." On the final day, Miranda requested to speak. She wore a pale blue blouse, her hands trembling as she stood. "I don't deny anything," she said, "but I never thought it would go this far. I admit I was jealous. I admit I stayed silent when Kyle crossed the line. I never meant for this to happen." Kyle remained silent throughout the entire trial except when the verdict was read. When the jury returned, no one moved. The judge stood, voice steady. The jury has reached a verdict. Kyle Carson and Miranda Stone are found guilty on all charges: conspiracy to cause serious bodily harm, unauthorized use of controlled substances for personal gain, and intentional endangerment of another person's life. I held my breath as the sentence was delivered. The court hereby sentences Kyle Carson to 18 years in prison, Miranda Stone to 12 years. Neither sentence is eligible for probation. Kyle didn't lift his head. Miranda broke down in tears, the first time she had shown any emotion during the trial. I didn't feel triumphant, just relief, like waking up from a nightmare that had lasted too long. As they were led away, I whispered, "It's not because I'm stronger than you. It's because I never poisoned anyone to get what I wanted." 1 year later, I stood on the main stage at the Charleston Business Summit, soft lights shining over the audience. Hundreds of executives, strategists, and familiar faces from the marketing world were all watching me. I smiled and adjusted the mic. "My name is Everly Carson," I began, my voice clear and steady. "And today I want to talk to you about transforming adversity into drive, and how to hold on to your identity in the storm of envy, betrayal, and pain." A year ago, I walked out of a courtroom not with a win in hand, but with a shattered heart. Yet, I carried the one thing that mattered most: the truth. And that changed the course of both my career and my life. After the trial, I left my old company, where despite their support during the lawsuit, I still felt the weight of weary glances and hushed conversations. Instead, I accepted an offer from Henderson Group, the very firm nearly taken from me by my ex-husband and sister-in-law. They brought me on as regional strategy director for the Southeast, giving me full control over major projects. I didn't seek revenge. I never smeared Kyle or Miranda in the press. I never told my story in interviews. I just worked quietly, relentlessly, with integrity, and the results spoke for themselves. 9 months ago, I secured an exclusive partnership with the luxury skincare brand Lyric Skin, worth more than $12 million. 3 months after that, my team won the Breakthrough Strategy Award at the National Conference in Atlanta. And most recently, I was elected to the executive board of the American Marketing Association. I took a breath and continued my speech. They say success is the sweetest revenge. I disagree. Revenge in any form is rooted in bitterness, but success, when built on integrity and perseverance, is the kind that frees you from the need for retaliation. Applause echoed from below. I looked out and saw a young woman watching me, eyes sparkling, the same kind of look I once had when I first entered the industry. After the presentation, I walked down the long hallway leading backstage. A woman approached holding a notebook and pen. "Excuse me, Miss Everly, I'm Danielle. I work at a health tech startup. I just wanted to say, your speech gave me so much courage." I smiled and gently touched her arm. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward even when you're afraid. I saw that courage in your eyes already. That evening, I returned to my new apartment in downtown Charleston, the one I'd designed myself after selling the old house. In my inbox was an email from Henderson's legal team. The subject was simple. The Liskin contract had been extended for another 3 years. I sat out on the balcony watching the Ashley River curve beneath the city lights. In my hand was a cup of chamomile tea, not coffee, and definitely not made by someone else. I wasn't afraid of my drink anymore. I didn't have to question everyone around me. I had reclaimed my life. At the bottom of the email, a note from Henderson's CEO read, "Thank you for not giving up. You're more than a top representative. You're a testament to resilience." I don't know where Miranda and Kyle are now, in federal prison. My attorney sent me a copy of the sentencing summary, but I never opened it. I didn't need to. I didn't want to, because I chose to move forward without looking back, without bitterness, without carrying the weight of vengeance. I chose freedom and success. That was the proof I never let the darkness win. Everly's story is living proof that truth and perseverance can overpower even the darkest conspiracies. Though betrayed by those closest to her, she didn't crumble. She rose, gathered evidence, and pursued justice. And instead of seeking revenge, she chose success built on her own strength and integrity. In a world full of deceit, she reminded us that character and resolve are the strongest weapons we have to move forward. What do you think of Everly's choice? Is success truly the best answer to betrayal? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful and unexpected family stories.